I'm going to mute everybody at this point except for myself, just so that we don't end up with lots of noise on here, I guess. Well, let's get started, just because we can, and I think we should. So, like I said, this is going to be a pretty basic talk, and certainly, you know, it will open the avenue for further talks. And if you guys, please let me know if you have questions along the way. I think I figured out how I can actually see that. I need to get that up here again. But if you have questions, you know, please just try and shoot a message, and I will. I'll try and keep an eye on that as well. So really, it's basic nutrition things, which looking at who's here, it's going to be pretty basic, but you know what? Going over basics is okay. So in terms of, let's get my slide to go. Let's do, oh no, let's not mute me too. Hey, there we go. Now I got my slides to go. I don't even know what I did. So, all right. So, well, maybe I can go backwards. There we go. So goals. So I want to go over macro and micronutrients, talk a little bit about calories, energy, fuel, you know, what sort of things can and should we be eating each day, you know, just to live each day and for activity. And then I want to go over a food plan that I've talked with a lot of you about, which is the Cardiometabolic food plan. And if that is helpful or of interest, you know, let us know at the end, because we can share that through the portal really easy. So when we're talking about macro micronutrients, you know, you think a little bit about macro. Macro is our energy sources. So that's our fats, carbs, and proteins. And I'll go into depth with each of those. When we talk about micronutrients, we're talking about our vitamins and minerals. And these things are really vital for cellular function, metabolism, growth, repair. They're cofactors and support enzyme functions. And some of you, I know we've talked about different things when we're looking at different metabolic pathways, like where things can be missing and cause our system to go a bit awry, if you will. When we talk about vitamins, water versus fat soluble, the fat solubles are A, D, E, and K. Those are ones that you could actually theoretically get too much of. The rest of the vitamins, water soluble, so you're going to actually literally pee them out if you get too many in. In terms of minerals, we're looking again kind of macro versus micro, or you've probably all heard of trace minerals. So macro, really you're thinking about calcium, magnesium, sodium, potassium, iron. When we're looking at micro or trace minerals, this is more, and this is like only a tiny fraction of what we actually need to think about, but copper, zinc, chromium, vanadium, manganese, these are all things that are available really in really trace amounts in our body, but they're super essential when it comes to, you know, our skin, our blood sugar, and insulin regulation, and certainly even with neurotransmitters and that kind of stuff. So hormonally and enzyme-wise, super, super important. Going back to the macronutrients, so when we think about carbohydrates, a lot of you guys have seen it, abbreviation is CHO, so it's carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Those are really our sugars, our starches, and our fibers. And I think everybody's aware that there's complex carbs, meaning they're slower to convert to glucose, versus simple carbs, which would be your sucrose, fructose, and lactose. Sucrose, think about table sugar. Fructose is a lot of times the fruit that's in fruits, vegetables. Lactose in dairy. So we convert these for energy. The complex and fructose are absorbed and converted a little bit more slowly than straight glucose. We get our carbs from fruits and vegetables, grains, legumes, and dairy for the most part. Excess carbs are going to get stored as glycogen in liver and muscles. And for those of you that have done any endurance sports, you know, there was a time when we would like try to carb load to really maximize. You'd really try to deplete the glycogen stores in your muscles and your liver, and then you'd really try to reload prior to an endurance event. And there's different theories about that at this point. Carbohydrates via their mechanism of action in glucose directly impact our insulin levels. And we got to think about that when it comes to thinking about diabetes. And then the other important thing that I don't think I haven't been great about emphasizing enough with everybody is fiber. We really, if we literally got 25 grams a day of fiber, it would significantly impact our health. Like generally for people with constipation, that can make a big difference. And also when you're thinking about not only fiber from that standpoint, but also fiber will actually help like drop your blood pressure. It helps us lower our cholesterol. So there's a lot of good things about fiber. Moving on to, let's see, there we go, protein. So proteins, everybody understands they're different than carbs, but really what the differentiating thing between protein and carbs is the carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen. And that's the part of the protein that is unique. It's helpful, but it also can be a problem when we have too much protein. And, you know, I know talking with most of you, like some of us tend to fall in camps of like, get plenty of protein and others get less protein. So that's a balance. And there's also some debate as to like, how much do we need each day? And I think that depends a bit on our activity. It also depends a bit on our age. Protein provides us our source of amino acids. And most of you are aware, like amino acids are our building blocks. So those are super important. It's going to help all our tissues, our organs, muscle, skin, hair, nails, tendons, ligaments, everything. So protein, we need protein. There are two different things to think about with proteins, and this refers to the amino acids. So there's complete proteins and incomplete proteins. What it's really referring to is whether or not a protein source provides all of the essential amino acids, which meat, fish, poultry, eggs, dairy, soy are complete versus grains, beans, nuts, seeds, legumes, leafy greens. Those are incomplete proteins, but when combined, those are actually super helpful in terms of being able to create whole proteins. And that's kind of the idea in the classic beans and rice dish that's seen in a lot of different societies and ethnicities. So that's kind of where, you know, people have evolved and learned over time to combine different foods. So proteins, they're required for our hormones, our enzymes, repair and muscle building. They also help maintain an appropriate pH in our body, which is vitally important. They help maintain our fluid balance. We think of one of our major proteins being albumin, and that really helps support basically our fluid volume in our body. Proteins support our immune function. Immunoglobulins are made of protein. And they also make up the transporters in our body and provide energy, but really as a last resort do proteins provide energy. If we get excess dietary protein, it can be burned for energy very inefficiently, but it also gets stored as fat. So too much, I would really say too much of anything isn't a good thing. So excess nitrogen in protein gets filtered through our kidneys. It also, in that sense, can cause uric acid to rise, thinking about gout. Let's see. I'm gonna try and mute. There we go. Fats. There's a couple things to think about with fats. There's saturated fats, which are solid at room temperature. I don't know how many years ago I finally figured out the saturated fats were solid, like maybe S and S or something. But for a long time, that was apparently a concept I wasn't able to memorize or something. But our saturated fats, those also include our trans fats, which are processed food. But butter, animal fat, red meat, lard, cheese, those are all saturated fats. Another saturated fat, which has gotten a lot of press, is also coconut oil. So that's a saturated fat. And there's varying degrees of how good, these things are. And there's a lot of differing opinions about saturated fats. I mean, I think we need a balance of everything. It also really depends a bit on our genetics. It depends on, it really depends, like if you have had hormonally sensitive cancer, or if you are having hormonally sensitive issues. Certainly we get into saturated fats and animal fats. There's a whole nother component of hormone relation with that. In terms of unsaturated fats, people are pretty, I think, familiar with monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fats. These are all, being unsaturated fats, they're liquid at room temperature. So, your monounsaturated fats can tend to be, they can actually tend to raise your LDL cholesterol, but lower your HDL cholesterol. Your increase the bad and decrease the good a little bit. So you're thinking about sunflower safflower oil. Those would be typical oils. When we're getting more into olive oil, nuts and seeds, like those polyunsaturated, like where avocados, fish oil, and so we can't say fats are bad. Probably again a balance, but fats are vital for hormone production and steroid production. I know with a lot of you, when we've gone over especially a discussion about hormones, I always show people the steroidogenic chart, which puts cholesterol up in the upper left corner. And so we need fats and we need cholesterol in our body. Also, I think a really important thing that I would like to stress here too is, like, our body makes cholesterol. So what we eat certainly impacts that, but it's not a direct correlation between what we eat and now your cholesterol goes up. So that's important. Fats protect us, cholesterol protects us. When we need, babies need fat for their brain development. As adults, we need it for healthy nerve and brain function. So it's super vital that we have fat. So it definitely shouldn't have a bad rap, but maybe we should choose to eat avocado and olive oil and nuts and seeds, and maybe some grass-fed butter and grass-fed meats, but maybe limit the baked goods. As good as they are, they probably aren't helping us a whole lot. In terms of energy reserve, fats are the most concentrated form of energy, which we can access. It also serves to protect organs and provide some insulation as well. So why do we care about fats, proteins, and carbohydrates? Each of them provide us energy in the form of calories. I'm going to show you coming up here a different, basically a graph that shows how quickly we kind of break things down. Maybe most of you know, like a calorie is a unit for measuring heat, and we talk about calories in our diet. And, we use it as a way to measure the value of foods for producing heat and energy in the body. So a calorie is equal to the amount of heat required to raise 1 kilogram of water, 1 degree centigrade. So that's where, like, the calorie comes from. So it is all about using food as fuel and burning. When we look at each of our macronutrients, fat is 9 calories per gram. Protein, 4 calories, carbohydrates, 4 calories. I did not put on here alcohol. That's generally not a great macronutrient. That is 7 calories. if my memory serves me properly. But we need to think about these things as fuel for our energy. I think when you look at this chart, you'd say, wow, I just want to eat fat, and because it's going to be most, efficient, but that isn't our most efficient way to convert. So there are nuances with that. And then we each have differing abilities to utilize different sources optimally. And we can work on those things in the field of nutrigenomics, which is basically looking at our genes and then the nutritional overlay on that. Like, that field is really taking off right now. So I think we will get to a day, and I know I was speaking to one of you earlier this week, like I've done my genomics a few different times. And so, and you can do genomics through like 23andMe and these different things, but from a genetic standpoint, like theoretically, I need to eat a very balanced diet. And I know for myself, like if I really want to be serious about changing my body composition, that is the long-term most effective thing to me, to eat a good balance. I can certainly push things with fasting. I can push things a little bit, but I'm really starting to question how much long-term impact that has on my health and the health of each of us. So what do we do with these food and calories? Glucose is really kind of our main energy store, which I think people are aware of. Carbohydrates obviously convert to glucose the fastest. We can get energy right away. If we run out of carbohydrates, so we're not eating them, we deplete our muscle glycogen stores because we've been active. We deplete this out of our liver as well. We can burn fats, and it happens by lipolysis. So if you break that word down, it's lipid and lysis, so fat breakdown. And then gluconeogenesis is glucose, neo is new, and genesis to create. So our liver can do that, so we can create sugar. And that, clearly there's a survival benefit to that, because if you were, in theory, fasting, you should be able to create some glucose. Our last line of defense is protein. And when that happens, then we're starting to break down muscles, and that's where we can get into prolonged fasting. And there's some interesting data right now, and I know you guys see a ton of things in the press. All of the data we have for fasting, whether it be intermittent fasting, prolonged fasting, all of those things are on mice, number one, or they're in men. There are not a lot of studies on women, and it's really becoming probably more clear that we actually, as women, can have more detrimental impact with some of those things than the perceived benefit that we're hearing, which has been shown in mice and occasionally in some small studies in men. So it's pretty fascinating. But we do need glucose, but that doesn't mean go out and just eat sugar for a multitude of things. You'd end up with diabetes eventually. But the other thing is too, is if we constantly have glucose around, we don't allow our body to switch between some of these other modes. It's ideal if we can have our body burn fat sometimes too as well, obviously. And probably the most important way to do any of those things, which I'll go through when we go through a cardiometabolic food plan here in a bit, it's really balancing our intake, which is probably the most wise way to do things. So how many calories do we all need? Do we need more if we're active? Yeah, we do. And for many of you who have done a body composition here in the office, we've been able to get your basal metabolic rate. And if you've come back in and done it more than once, you notice as your body composition changes, your basal metabolic rate changes. The more muscle we have, the higher our basal metabolic rate. So we each need, this base amount of calories. And when we're talking basal metabolic rate, that's not about functioning during the day. Like, that is literally heart beating, breathing, it's basal, baseline function. When we start talking about adding activity, which hopefully everybody's doing some, we've got to increase our caloric intake to match that. So that's super important. I know I've talked to a lot of people about making sure that for prolonged periods of time, we're not below that basal metabolic rate because we're trying to lose weight or change our body composition. Because what I see very clearly is often weight does not shift. It might go up, it might go down a little bit, but generally I see body fat increase because you're breaking down muscle and not getting enough calories. So think about the sorts of activities we do each day. Oh, I guess I got a typo there. Good thing I read it now. Think, household chores, working, hiking, walking, snowshoeing, running and jogging, lifting weights, biking, people ski and swim, dancing. Like all of those things are we need to be thinking about when we're thinking about like, wow, what other kind of calories potentially am I burning and what do I need to do to meet those? Like a lot of people wear pedometers can give you an idea. People who have Apple Watches, you guys have all seen like my Garmin. Generally, I'm wearing a new tool to me called an Oura Ring right now. So that is kind of tracking all of my sleep and caloric data as well as basically my activity data through the day. So there's ways to really quantify this if we want, but I don't think that that's always necessary. But it's just thinking about when we're more active, we basically need to feed our activity. So I actually saw a friend post a picture of like one of their little kiddos that's like 3 on Facebook the other day that was just like completely, you could see passed out and like just cashed out in the entryway. It was pretty comical. So we all either get tired or run out of fuel at times, and when we do run out of energy, like I suspect everybody's felt sometimes you just feel weak and you feel drained. We get irritable. We can't think well, so the biggest thing we can do is really make sure that we're fueling ourselves and getting adequate calories. So how do we decide what to eat? We got to break down these fats, proteins, and carbohydrates. We can think about how well and how fast do we digest these things. If you need quick energy, probably fat's not going to do it for you. We'll go over the cardiometabolic food plan here. Hopefully it will show up. We'll do that next. But this is just a good, I pirated this from these people, so I'm really indebted to Verta. But this had the nice graph. Like, so when you're thinking about time, what happens with insulin response, when you're eating carbs, and certainly complex carbs are going to be a little bit slower than simple carbs. But carbs, your insulin's going to go up and down, so that's correlating your glucose. Protein's going to take a little bit longer. Fats are a slow burn. That's why it's so important to have a combination of things while you're, with what you're eating and different meals and different snacks. So hopefully you guys can see this okay, because I feel like it's a little bit blurry. But so here's a standard cardiometabolic food plan, 14 to 1800 calories. That's probably a pretty average caloric need for a lot of people. The cool thing about this is like, you can see that it talks about, oh boy, all right, we got 10 minutes. Proteins and carbs, protein and carb, protein and fats. And then we'll go on to the other side with vegetables. But the cool thing here is like, it tells you, an ounce of cheese is going to be 1 serving of protein. And if you're on this plan, you need 9 to 10 servings of protein a day. So that, and this is based on a 40% carb, 30 protein, 30 fat. But it's a cool tool because it just really helps you at a glance, not really have to count, but you can kind of keep an idea of what it is you're doing. We need fats, and it's got great choices for healthy fats in here. Looking at basically the flip side of this page is basically your carbs. So here's some of your starches, non-starches. Here's your fruits, grains, as well as beverages. So you need a lot of veggies each day, clearly, and that's like 1 cup cooked, or it's actually a half cup cooked or a cup raw, like when you're dealing with greens. So it's a ton of vegetables. But you can see how you can you have some of each, but it's a matter of kind of just making sure that you're getting a good variety, really. So the only other thing we haven't talked about that's a major component of what we need is water. And I actually looked this up this morning, and the most recent recommendation from the National Academy of Medicine is 15 cups of water for men, 11 cups of water for females. So 11 cups is, 88 ounces. Like, that's a lot of water. But I would say mostly, like, number one, listen to thirst. Like, try to avoid being thirsty. And the other thing that's a really easy tool that I talk with athletes about too is when you pee, I don't want your urine to be bright yellow, especially if unless you're taking a B vitamin, which will make your pee glow. I'll get to question. I'll go through the last. We're kind of done here, and I'll answer these two questions here. So clearly, it's super important what we eat each day, that we all need healthy fats, proteins, and carbs. We can't expect our bodies to perform well if we don't take care of them. I would try think about the analogy, if we're eating crap and processed foods, it'd be like trying to put gasoline in your diesel truck. Like, it just doesn't work very well. If we show up tired and hungry, and dehydrated, like, that's what we're giving back to life. So in closing, let me know if you want more of a deep dive into this. We can certainly send out cardiometabolic food plans to people as well. And then I have a few references here. So I will get this uploaded. My goal is today. I'll try and get it on the website, but I for sure will get it uploaded to YouTube, and then I'll send out another MailChimp email so that you guys will have that. Okay, Sam. The heart rate. So Sam asks, whether or not you should get your heart rate up above the 220 minus your age. I would have that conversation a bit individually with people, but that's not a notoriously accurate measure for heart rate. I mean, for myself as an example, I would say that I shouldn't get my heart rate above 169. Like, I don't want to say I do it all the time, but that's in my lactate threshold. So definitely that's an individual conversation we should have. I'll post in that email, there's another calculation which I'm not thinking about right offhand that gives us a better indicator about heart rate. In terms of fiber in your diet, I don't see if I can make this go backwards. So yeah, I can. So when you think about fiber, you're getting fiber from your legumes. Definitely nuts and seeds, you're getting fiber. If you're eating avocado, you're getting fiber. When all of our veggies are non-starchies, these starchy veggies are all giving us fiber. Certainly grains are giving us fiber. And fruits, which is why I really encourage people not to have fruit juice, but rather to eat the whole fruit, because otherwise, I don't want to say it's as bad as soda, but it's just about as bad as soda to just drink fruit juice. So, any other questions? I would say the question is protocol from losing weight. Like, that's an individualized process. I would argue, actually, if anybody follows this plan and you really actually eat all the vegetables and the layout that it is in, I will lose weight within 2 weeks following a cardiometabolic food plan. So I would say that this is not just weight maintenance, but it can actually be, because of the caloric distribution, this actually can be a really effective weight loss plan. So, any other questions? Maybe not. All right. Well, thank you guys for your time this morning. I will get this posted. I will also I'll write myself a note to get a calculation, the heart rate calculation as well. So shoot us a message if you have other questions, okay? All right. Have a great day, you guys. Thank you.